Imagine it's late at night and you're with your favorite Discord kitten, reading some of the best manga that's, ever been created in the history of mankind. But it's late at night, so you start to feel tired, and you decide, let's get in bed. But as usual, before you get in bed, you decide to go on YouTube, wind down. And you see a clip from an old TV show that you used to love as a kid. And you think to yourself, I love this TV show. Let's give this clip a watch. And you watch the clip, and it is the worst thing you've ever seen. This was me last night. The show in question, it was The Flash. I mean, you probably could have guessed that, considering it's like the end-all, be-all of like shit writing for speedsters. For some context, my favorite superpower a person can have is actually super speed. I genuinely just think it's a cool power a superhero can have. The issue with it, however, is when writers never know how to fucking write it. They always make it inconsistent, even in the same episodes. For the Flash's case, Barry could be this fucking speedster god in the intro, taking down some random thug, but when the main villain shows up, he's just slow as fuck and lets him run away. It's terrible. The clip that I watched that made me so annoyed that I decided to make this video was Season 1, Episode 10 of The Flash, where the returning villain, Captain Cold, who is a normal human by the way, so the Flash should have no trouble fighting this guy, as he can just speed blitz him. He shoots the ground with his ice gun, and it makes this not so large ice wall, and I shit you not, the Flash, the guy that can stop and perceive time so fast he can outrun a nuclear fucking bomb.
It's toasty in here.
We need you to cool it down.
You want me to cool down a nuclear reaction that's already gone critical? You're serious?
Just runs into this ice wall, falling flat on his face. And I mean, after watching that clip, I wasn't tired anymore. I was just more angry at the fact that writers can take this power that I love so much and just completely butcher it. So I dedicated my night to just find examples in media of just speedsters being written well. And I came to the conclusion that writers just can't write speedsters for shit. So let's move on to the next example. My next example of a speedster being written terribly is technically two examples. It's both the Quicksilvers from the X-Men series and the Civil War movie. The one from the X-Men movies is slightly better, so let's start with him. In the first movie he appears in, Days of Future Past, I actually have no problems with. He's just written well with just zero inconsistencies. He just shows up, does some really powerful speedster stuff, and then is just not in the film anymore. So no problems with it. The second film is where I start to have issues. For some context, in the first and in the second film, Quicksilver has these time in a bottle scenes, which just shows how significantly faster he is than everyone else, basically slowing down time. Now, these scenes are cool and shows how powerful Quicksilver can actually be. The issue is, however, when the main villain, Apocalypse, in the second film, just fucking chump checks him in the middle of their fight. Now, throughout this entire second film, Apocalypse has never been shown to be able to react to anything this quickly before, and has never shown any type of speedster feats. So how is he able to react to Quicksilver, who we know can move faster than anyone can perceive? Now, before any fucking nerd in the comments goes, well, actually, in the comic books, he can actually have superhuman perceptions because he can speed up his neurons. Fuck off. In this film, Apocalypse has not been shown to be able to do that. So he should just not be able to do it in this film at all. It's just inconsistent writing. And the third film is even worse. Now, in the second film, Time in a Bottle scene, it shows Jean Grey, who is the main villain of the third film. Now, in the second film, it shows Quicksilver is significantly faster than her as well, as she also moves in this slowed down state. However, in the third film, when the first ever fight happens, she just fucking moves when he's doing his time in a bottle scene. It makes no sense. She's a normal human with non-speedster powers. She has psychic powers. How the fuck is she moving against him? It's just dumb. It is so stupid. But other than those two examples of the X-Men Quicksilver being shittily written, I actually just have no issues with. He's fine as a character, I guess. The same cannot be said for the Civil War Quicksilver. I mean, do I even need to talk about this fucking shit show of a character? He just doesn't do anything throughout the entire film. In all of the fights, he barely shows up, and then he gets fucking shot at by bullets when he can very clearly dodge them. It's just dumb, and it's just not a good film to begin with, to be honest. So moving on. This next speedster actually makes me angry because the show ruined what the comics just set up perfectly. It's Red Rush from Invincible. So during the first episode, the show subtly depicts Red Rush to be one of the most powerful superheroes in the entire show, solely because of how powerful speed powers are. For example, towards the end of the episode, Red Rush is having a conversation with his girlfriend, and during this conversation, he leaves for a fraction of a second to go and tie it to some just electric villain, and he did this so fast, in fact, that the only reason his girlfriend recognizes he left was because he forgot to change out of his superhero costume, which is dumb in its own right, because if he was moving so fast, no one would recognize him anyway, so why is he wearing a costume to begin with, but I digress. He then goes on to explain, telling the audience directly that his perception is just as fast as he is, and that a single conversation feels like it lasts an hour for him, feeling like agony.
Olga, please. You can't see things how I do. My perception is just as fast as I am. The briefest conversation with anyone seems like hours to me. It's agony!
And that is where I have issues with, because later in the episode, when the confrontation with Omni-Man is happening, he gets fucking chump-checked. Why didn't he react to Omni-Man's slow-ass grab if, and I quote, the briefest conversation seems like hours? And before anyone says some dumb shit like, actually, Omni-Man also has super speed and combat experience. By looking away, he was able to catch Red Rush off guard. Okay, fine, I'll accept that. If you accept, that makes the writing even worse, because if Omni-Man has the same level of speed as Red Rush, why is he getting clapped by the Immortal, or the human robots, or even the fucking alien monster in the final episode if he could speed blitz them? Unless Omni-Man doesn't have that kind of speed, and don't quote me on this, Invincible actually has bad writing, which would have never happen, of course.
Fly away, flyboy, or take the stairs. I really don't give a shit.
I said the comics set up Red Rush perfectly, and what I mean by this, and it's a simple change really, it's just that Omni-Man kills Red Rush first in a surprise attack. That's all it needed, honestly. And apart from a couple moments in the show, it adapts and makes the story better than the comics ever did. It's just, sometimes it messes up.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I did lie before when I said writers can't write speedsters for shit, as there are some examples of them being written consistently. There's not a lot of them, but there are some, so here's two. There's Metro Man, and there's Dash. Metro Man being this all-powerful, unstoppable being, while still being written well and compelling, and Dash being quite weak when compared to his speedster counterparts, which in my opinion actually makes his character more charming. Let's start with Metro Man. In Megamind, the film properly shows just how powerful someone with insane speed can actually be by making Metro Man literally, like, unstoppable. He has, like, the ability to stop time, and unlike everyone else I've talked about, Metro Man isn't beaten inconsistently. The film recognizes that they gave this man unstoppable godlike powers and actually made him an unstoppable god. As the only time in the entire film Metro Man is quote-unquote beaten is when he literally fakes his own death. Every other time when he's in danger, it would just be having fun, because having this kind of power would be boring. It's like living life on the easiest difficulty. Dash, on the other hand, is completely different. He is a speedster who isn't overpowered, and is written to be semi-realistic, being able to run around about 200 miles per hour. This allows the writers to still use his speed without making it an inconsistent plot device. Having this slower speed also allows the writers to actually create compelling fight scenes without falling on the back of time in a bottle scenes, like most speedsters do. I mean, everyone remembers the 100-mile dash scene from the first film. It's like one of the most memorable scenes of any kids film. And that sequence was only possible because they made his speed much more grounded in reality. Honestly, Dash is probably one of the most consistent speedsters in media. Well, there was that one scene with the thumbtack. Oh well.